This is going to be literally the first time, and I'm not just talking about on YouTube as a presentation, but the first time ever have done what the kids call a tier list. I want to tell you about a quick contest I'm running on this channel. All you have to do is subscribe to my channel and be a public subscriber. The contest is going to run through May 31st, and I will randomly draw one of my public subscribers. Just make sure you comment on this video or any of my videos between now and the end of May that you have subscribed so that I can add your username to the list. We're going to be giving away a canvas poster of the Oscar-winning ANORA, featuring, of course, Mikey Madison. There you see the image. It will be a standard 24 by 36 official movie poster size, stretched onto canvas and ready to hang on your wall or in the strip club that you own. Make sure you subscribe to enter the contest. That's literally all you have to do. Comment on this video or any future videos between now and May 31st, 2025, and I will give away this beautiful canvas poster of ANORA. So I went over to tiermaker.com, and what I'm going to be doing is my tier list for the new 2025 movies I've seen so far this year. Let's get into the rankings for the movies of 2025 so far, according to your boy. Now, I will say, so far in 2025, things have been looking down until like the last week. I don't know what happened. I went to the theater a few times this past week, and I caught a few movies at home, and most of those I really enjoyed in the last like 7 to 10 days. But before that positive stretch that I had, I was a little concerned about how 2025 was going, as there was only maybe 2 or 3 films in all of January and all of February that I even liked over like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. It was just an abysmal first couple months to the year. Now, with that being said, I am way behind on my movie watching. As you know, I cover awards season in depth, so really up until the first week of March, I just didn't have time to watch 2025 movies because I couldn't shut the hell up about the 2024 ones that were going to be showing up on the awards circuit. I've only seen 15 new releases so far, which, if you're a math magician, averages out to be about 5 per month. That's not good. I've looked into turning in my film buff card. Let me pull up this tier list. Why am I putting it in air quotes? I think that's actually what it's called. No Notes is any movie that I gave a 10 out of 10 to. 5 out of 5 on Letterboxd would go under No Notes. Stellar would be any film that I gave an 8 or a 9 out of 10 to. It's Fine would be anything I gave a 6 or a 7. And those are where the bulk of my movies so far this year are probably going to fall, in that 5 to 7 range, because they've all been okay. Borderline shitty to okay is 2025 so far, if I had to sum it up with one statement. No Bueno is any movie I gave a 4 or a 5. And then I Wanted to Die while watching it is anything that I scored a 0 up to a 3 out of 10. So some of these tiers may not get used on this video since we only have 15 movies to rank. But let's get into it. I listed them in alphabetical order, and we will be starting with Steven Soderbergh's Black Bag. So Black Bag's a bit of a slow burn spy thriller, which I didn't even know was a thing, but it is kind of. So it incorporates some of the kind of heist vibe that we get from Soderbergh's films like the Ocean 11's franchise, but mixes it with a much more calm, dialogue-heavy, almost Sorkin-esque screenplay and the character development in the movie. It's a very wordy film, and there's not a lot of action in the movie. And when I say action, I don't mean like, Mission Impossible shit, spy thriller. I mean action just like anything happening other than people just not talking about this mystery that they're trying to solve in the movie. Now, I did like it, but I also didn't expect it to be so kind of quiet and unenergetic, which it was. Soderbergh, for some reason, can make really anything work for me. The guy has never missed. And he didn't miss here either. And not only that, he's already had 2 movies come out in 2025, and I've seen both of them, and they'll both be on this ranking. Starting with Black Bag, since it's first in alphabetical order, I actually really like this movie. I'm going to throw it up here in stellar. I gave it, I believe, a 4 on Letterboxd, which would be an 8 out of 10. And I also failed to tell you guys, you probably see it on the screen right now, if editing Gerald did the right thing. But each movie is going to get a scorecard too that I'll throw up on the screen, which is basically just the score that I gave it or that I would have given it if I did a review on my channel or my website, which I did for some of these. I did not for Black Bag, but there you see I would have given it an 8 out of 10. It falls on the stellar tier. I crammed a little bit last night. I actually watched 2 movies and I was up till 3:30 a.m. Eastern time. One of those 2 that I watched, which I wish had not been the final one because I was tired, but also I was kind of all over the place with this movie. But it's a movie called Borderline. It's a new kind of horror-esque kind of home invasion thriller. Features Samara Weaving, of course, from Ready or Not, The Babysitter, just a wonderful, wonderful actress in the horror genre. And I said, well, she's in it. Press play. Let's do this shit. She was great in it. Jack Nicholson's son is in it as kind of like this psychotic fan of hers. Basically, it's, like I said, it kind of plays out like a bit of a home invasion film. And it's also a psychological thriller. I didn't hate it. You'll see where I'm going to place it here in a second. But for me, my biggest holdup with it was that they underused Samara Weaving. I mean, if she's in your movie, please don't underuse her. Any filmmakers that might be working with her that are watching this. But also tonally, it was so scattered. Like one 10 or 15 minute sequence would be like slapstick Jim Carrey Dumb and Dumber comedy type shit where I'm really laughing a lot. And then the next 15 minutes are very dramatic and introspective and tragic and dark, and it was just like a seesaw up and down. I just don't think the movie or the director ever kind of figured out what they wanted it to come across as, and for that reason it was a bit of a hodgepodge that had some really good things that I enjoyed about it. I love Samara, like I said, but overall it was just too unbalanced for me at the end of the day. So for Borderline, I'm going to throw it an it's fine. I did give it a 6 out of 10, or I would have given it a 6 out of 10. I don't know if I'm going to do a full review of that one on this channel because I just saw it last night. But I could, and if I do, look for it in the near future. If I don't look for it in the near future. Next up is one that I'm excited to talk about, and I actually might do a review for this one because I'm really kind of want to get some thoughts out about this movie. But it is an Irish film called Bring Them Down. This is a movie that is being distributed by Mubi, of course, gaining fame this past award season for The Substance. And it's a film starring Christopher Abbott and Barry Keoghan, who got nominated last year for The Banshees of Inisherin. He was in Saltburn last year. And they are rival shepherds, rival sheep herders in this secluded Irish town. Their families don't like each other. Their farms are separated by like not even a mile apart, so they kind of share farmland. Sometimes one of their sheep will wander into the other one's land and vice versa. And it's a bit of a rivalry and just a lot of history with the fathers and grandfathers. And they just kind of hate each other and their competition in their business in this very small town. So the film, that's the setup of the film. But the rivalry goes too far. And I'm not going to give it away because, frankly, there's some shocking shit in this movie. Also, trigger warning: there is some animal cruelty in the movie, or at least depicted. I mean, I don't mean literally. So it can be hard to watch at times. But this is kind of like a crime thriller, without the cops and robbers. It's a crime thriller in a secluded Irish village, if that's a thing. But the performances, man, Christopher Abbott especially in this movie just freaking blew me away. Like, he blew me away so much in this film that I stopped for a second. I realized every time I see this guy act in a movie, literally every single time I've seen him, I'm floored by his performance. And I was doing research for my actors that have not been nominated for an Oscar yet. And he hasn't, but he is one of those young actors that I'm thinking to myself, he is going to get, or should get, based on his talent for the craft, multiple Academy nominations in the next 10 to 15 years, I would think, if his trajectory continues. Hell, he's already done 2 or 3 that, from just the performance, including this one, are just as good as anything I've seen get nominated for Oscars in modern times. And speaking of Oscars, Barry Keoghan already has a nomination. And he's also tremendous in this, kind of playing an awkward antagonist, but you kind of feel sorry for him. He's a very unique, kind of twisted character in this movie that has a lot of his own issues, and that lends to you kind of feeling sorry for him. But the two-hander of Abbott and Keoghan is phenomenal. The cinematography, the landscapes in this movie are brilliant. It's one of my favorite films of the year, and I can't believe nobody's talking about it. I mean, I know the limited release in theaters, and now it's on Mubi. I think you can do video on demand for it. It is a hard watch. There's a lot of kind of like body horror and like just some things that you wouldn't expect to see in a movie like this that kind of take you by surprise when they happen. But I think it does lend to the kind of severity and importance of the story. Bring Them Down is actually my highest rated movie of the year so far. I believe I gave it a 9 out of 10, or what would be a 4.5 on Letterboxd. So it's going to fall in that stellar category, but I am going to move it ahead of Black Bag because it would be in number 1 in my stellar column row. Next up is Captain America Brave New World. Holy shit. This is more superhero stuff, you know, and this one is weird because we did a podcast episode on this. I'll link it to this video. Essentially, it was the victim of a ton of rewrites and reshoots and patchy CGI, green screen shit. Like, it just was an ugly movie to be on a Marvel Disney budget. It's just weird that it looked the way it looked. It looked more like a Disney Plus TV show with a much smaller budget than what these films have. You did have Harrison Ford kind of hamming it up and portraying the Red Hulk eventually in the last act of the film. The Red Hulk is only a part of the movie for maybe 4 or 5 minutes, but that was my favorite part from an action perspective. Anthony Mackie was serviceable in the Captain America role, and there's some other cool kind of supporting actors as well. But the villain was laughable. It was really stupid. They were essentially trying to make a sequel to The Incredible Hulk from like 20 years ago that nobody frankly remembers and that nobody else in the MCU has really tried to tie into any film that's happened in the last 20 years. So, you know, I didn't understand, or 15 years. I didn't understand that whole connection. I don't know why that was the villain, the leader. So it was all just kind of like, there were some good parts. There were equally some bad parts, but it was just put together so hastily and messy that it was just hard for me to get into it. It's no bueno. Captain America Brave New World is no bueno. I think I gave it a 5. Yeah, 5 out of 10 is what I gave it on the podcast, and that's still where I sit as I'm recording this video. Next up's another good one that I really enjoyed called Companion. It's also the first of 2 that Jack Quaid starred in the first quarter, or at least that I've seen, and I really dug this one. So this is kind of a horror thriller. It's also got a built-in messaging with AI and how that's kind of becoming a huge part of our lives. So much so in Companion that Sophie Thatcher is essentially an AI woman who is extremely realistic, essentially a sex bot, but she's very, very human-like. So the technology has advanced. This is sometime, obviously, in the not too distant future, though, maybe in the next 5 or 10 years in the film. And there's this elaborate plot involving her as Jack Quaid's robot girlfriend, and they go to this weekend getaway to one of his best friend's like cabin in the woods, and some shit happens, and her AI kind of malfunctions, for lack of a better way to put it, without giving spoilers away, and it turns into kind of this cat and mouse like chase movie, and a whodunit kind of film. But there's a lot of cool horror elements built into it. It's kind of like the Terminator meets the Stepford Wives. And Sophie Thatcher is freaking awesome in this movie. I also love Jack Quaid in it. I liked him a little bit better in another movie that I saw with him this quarter, but he was serviceable in Companion. And I'm going to throw that one up here in stellar as well. I really liked Companion, and I would probably put it where it is. I would probably do Bring Them Down, Black Bag, and Companion in that order. And I believe I gave Companion an 8 out of 10. Next up would be a film called Dogman that I saw with my kids. Both of my boys are huge fans of that whole world, the animated world with Captain Underpants, I think. And Dogman, it's a comic that was a graphic novel, I think. And essentially the body of a very noble policeman and the head of his dog, they were both going to die, but instead they took the man's body and the dog's head and they put them together, and we have Dogman. Now, is that the dumbest shit you've ever heard in your life? Yes, but it's also directed to like 5 to 11-year-olds. And my kids both fall in that age bracket, and they freaking love this thing. We actually watched it in the theater, and then I had to watch it on demand on a freaking loop with my little one because he loves Dogman now. It's one of his favorite characters. He's also a big fan of Captain Underpants, which is the same animators, I believe, and the same storytellers. I just didn't get it. I mean, it had some funny moments in the movie. The animation's kind of cool, but I don't know what the hell this thing is. I just didn't get it. So if I'm grading my experience, I'm going to throw it here on no bueno. It would actually go in front of Captain America, though, which is kind of weird. So they're both a 5 out of 10, but I'm looking at this and I'm going, which one would I rewatch first? And as kind of sad as it makes me, I think it would be Dogman. So I'll leave them in this order. But it's not something you need to watch unless you're literally doing it because your kids are making you. Next up is The Electric State. Holy shit. I did a full review on the channel for this one. This is the Netflix sci-fi movie, another one dealing with AI, by the way, that features Millie Bobby Brown and Chris Pratt. And Millie Bobby Brown's brother has been essentially, I don't know if reincarnated is the right word, but transferred to a robot that joins them for a mission to find her actual human brother, as he's been missing and thought to have been dead. And this starts this whole journey across basically a robot wasteland. So that sounds really cool, right? Well, yeah, I mean, it's the Russo brothers of MCU Avengers fame, and it cost $320 million to make it. So this must be the next Avatar. This is going to be great, right? Guys, The Electric State is a pile of shit. It's one of the worst movies I've seen, and I would also say it's one of the worst Netflix original movies I've ever seen. And unfortunately, Millie Bobby Brown is in like 3 of those. That would be like bottom tier Netflix movies. I wanted to die watching this. I wanted to die. I believe I gave it a 3 out of 10. So it's at the bottom tier on my tier list here. The Electric State. Millie Bobby Brown is charming. The special effects were okay, the visual effects. But aside from that, kill me. I don't want to see it. Next up is Bong Joon-ho's Mickey 17. This is also one I did a review on the channel for. I'm going to have a lot of tags on here for you guys, I guess, because I did some of these as podcast episodes, and I did some of these as YouTube reviews. This was one of my like 10 or 12 minute reviews that I did on YouTube. And I really dug this movie. It seems to be very divisive because I think people may have been expecting a different version of Bong Joon-ho, because we get this really kind of clever, playing it close to the vest, tongue-in-cheek narrative that also has an underlying message, but it's too on the nose. Typically, I think of a film like Okja. I compare the tone in that one to the tone in this one. They're very similar style-wise. And then you have a movie like Parasite, which I think is a masterpiece and his best film, is not as on the nose. It does have messaging about wealth and capitalism and the disparity from the poor and the wealthy and all that. Nevertheless, Bong Joon-ho, when he makes a movie and when these actors perform at the top of their craft for him as well, something special just happens for me as a viewer. I just love his movies. Even if thematically I go, well, that was kind of scattered, or I don't know about that, or why did he decide to do that? I still walk away with a very positive vibe and positive feeling of what Bong did, and there's no difference in Mickey 17. It's probably in the middle of the pack in terms of his filmography, but Robert Pattinson is freaking amazing in this movie, basically playing like 2 different versions of himself for the majority of the film. There's actually even a couple more than that, but they're short-lived. But for the majority of the movie, he's Mickey 17, Mickey 18, and they're 2 different personalities, and they're kind of butting heads, and then it comes a point where they have to kind of work together, and Robert Pattinson, I'm not even joking, and he's done a lot of shit, and this is an Oscar-worthy role. This is honestly probably the best role of his career, acting-wise. Will he get notoriety for it? I highly doubt it, unless somebody like the Globes or CCAs give it to him. But he's amazing in this film, and I think he's challenging himself with every single role, because every role you go, man, like, the dude was Batman. What a task, And then you go on to the next film, and it's like, him and Willem Dafoe are doing whatever the hell they're doing in The Lighthouse. I'm just throwing examples out there. And then you go along to Mickey 17, and this is something unlike anything he's ever done. He's basically talking like Bugs Bunny in it, some kind of weird Looney Tunes voiceover that he does. And it's just a tremendous performance, and you really connect to that character of Mickey because of Pattinson. And like I said, Bong Joon-ho would have to work really hard for me to not at least enjoy his films in some way. I am going to throw it in the it's fine range, but it's definitely going to go in front of borderline, because I believe I gave Mickey 17 a 7 out of 10, which is also what I rated it when I did that review here on the channel. Next up would be The Monkey, which is another horror film. This one is directed by Oz Perkins. I did a podcast episode on this one that I'll tag for you. And this is a movie that is Oz's follow-up to Longlegs. Longlegs last year with Nicolas Cage and Micah Monroe, if you saw that or if you've heard of that one, is a very Silence of the Lambs 7, like, crime procedural, serial killer, dark, gritty, serious tone vibes. This movie, I thought, was going to be somewhat similar, but with this kind of, I don't want to say stupid, but like silly narrative of a toy monkey playing its drums, having the ability to kill people, which is the message we get from the trailer pretty much. And fast forward to when I saw the movie, that's there. The monkey is that killer or tool for killers, but it's slapsticky, it's stupid, it's silly, it is campy, it's tongue-in-cheek, it's over the top. The level of kills in this movie are so extravagant and so excessive that they literally don't make sense because they're so wild. And I don't want to give any of them away for you guys because I wish I could. Listen to my podcast episode if you don't mind being spoiled, but I don't want to spoil everybody on this video. I love the over-the-top zaniness that Oz Perkins did with this film, The Monkey. And it's also based on a Stephen King short, so when you have Stephen King as your source material, you're off to a great start already. And I loved it. I had a blast with this movie. This is another one that I know has got a pretty divisive rating. Like, most people love it or hate it. It's kind of down the middle. For me, I'm going to put it in the It's Fine tier. It would go right behind Mickey 17, but I also gave this one a 7 out of 10. So it's fine. The Monkey. Check it out if you love horror like comedies, because that's basically what this is. Next up is an action comedy that also kind of has some body horror in it, I think inadvertently, but it's the other film starring Jack Quaid on this tier list called Novocaine. I also did a YouTube review for this movie, so that tag will be on the video for you. But Jack Quaid essentially is a man who cannot feel pain. He can't experience pain no matter what it is, being stabbed, falling off a building, getting run over, like, you know, his bones break and he can die and he can be injured, but he can't feel it. So he works at a bank. His bank gets robbed. Amber Midthunder plays the object of his affection, which I love her, by the way, from Prey, if you know who I'm talking about. And she gets kidnapped by the bank robbers, and his goal now is to save the woman he loves. So he kind of takes advantage of the fact that he can't get hurt and just goes on a vigilante justice mission to find her and to get her back before the kidnappers do something harmful to her. That's the premise of the movie, and you can imagine him being someone that doesn't experience pain and being almost superhero-like, that there's a lot of cool shit that can happen kind of to his body in the movie that would make us very cringy, but he can't even feel it. And you do get quite a few scenes with those types of tropes in there, but I thought they were very enjoyable and done very well, seemingly practical for the most part from a body horror standpoint, not a lot of CGI that I could notice. I did hate that the trailer gave a couple of the really, really good ones away, like the kitchen scene with the fryer and all that. If you saw the trailer, then it basically plays the whole goddamn scene out in the trailer, which I thought was weird when I saw it on the big screen. I was like, that's the same fucking scene from the trailer. So that was weird and kind of a missed opportunity on the movie studio's part. But I love Novocaine. This one is also going to go way high up in my stellar category, and it's going to go right behind Bring Them Down. So it is basically my number 2 so far this year, right behind Bring Them Down. And it is stellar. Am I doing right? Am I doing the tier list right? Does anybody know? Help. How about a comedy called One of Them Days, starring Keke Palmer and SZA? This is, I watched this. This is the other one I watched last night. This movie was freaking hilarious. I was dying. And that was at like 2 o'clock in the morning, okay? They were such a dynamic duo in this movie. This movie is the equivalent of a female-led Friday. The F. Gary Gray film with Chris Tucker and Ice Cube from the 90s, which is an all-time classic, just one of the best comedy classics ever. This is that kind of movie with 2 female leads instead of Craig and Smokey. That's what I equate it to. So if you know Friday, the kind of foul-mouthed, Crenshaw Compton crowd and all the kind of idiosyncrasies and stereotypes that come with that, but they are those people, and they're playing versions of themselves essentially, and a lot of other actors that ended up in the movie also. So it's basically just a mission that they're on to get their rent money back from SZA's boyfriend who stole it from their apartment. And they have to get the money back to pay their rent by 6 p.m. or they're going to get evicted. And crazy shit happens throughout the day when they're on this mission to get this money. They go to a blood bank to donate blood. They try to sell a pair of Air Jordans that they find on the street. It ends up being one of the big drug dealers in the neighborhood's Jordans, and they basically stole them and sold them. All kinds of crazy shit happens, and it's definitely a movie that is over the top and not really believable. But the two leads in this movie, Keke Palmer and SZA, worked so goddamn well together. It was so enjoyable to watch them. And some of the supporting roles in this movie were actors that I wasn't even familiar with that had me dying in this movie too. If you love those kind of like profane, vulgar West Coast gangster rapper kind of comedies, this is another one to add to that canon, and I really, really enjoyed it. One of them days. I just saw it last night. I'm going to throw it up here in It's Fine because I gave it a 7 out of 10, but it's going to be right in front of Mickey 17. One of them days. Check it out. The other Steven Soderbergh film that I watched very recently, actually, is one that I think came out all the way back in January, but I just had a chance to catch it a couple weeks ago, and it's the supernatural kind of ghost story called Presence. I'm not going to give any plot beats away in the movie, but you know this from the trailer if you've read anything about it. It's basically a ghost story or a haunted house story, but it's told through the camera is telling the story through the perspective, the POV of the ghost, of the apparition. So we're seeing everything the ghost sees for the most part in this film. And it is a very inventive way to shoot the film. Now, it did get dull and slow at times in this movie, and that was the only reason it brought it down from what may have been a little higher here on my tier list. I did really enjoy the film. I didn't like it as much as his other film, Black Bag, which I talked about earlier, which was a completely different kind of film. But another thing about Soderbergh is that I am always so impressed. The guy is never doing the same thing. I mean, these movies came out a month apart, and one of them is like this supernatural kind of character reflection story that has some scary moments, but it's basically just a character study of a ghost that you don't even meet. I mean, you see what they see, so you have somewhat of a connection to that, but they don't talk, you don't see them, but you're connecting to them anyway, so you're connecting to the camera. So Soderbergh is brilliant, is a freaking genius to do that, and it worked for me. I was enthralled the entire time with the proceedings. It was very similar to a much, much more graphic horror movie that came out last year called In a Violent Nature, which also had a bit of critical divide, and I fell on the positive side because of how inventive it was and how it just sucked me in, the whole concept of it, of following this Jason Voorhees-like slasher through the woods. And also I loved how, even with the kind of camera tactics, Soderbergh and the screenplay, and of course the actors, were still able to connect us to that family, the main family, and the characters involved in the different relationships, whether it's Lucy Liu and her husband kind of having marital problems, or the daughter suffering a tragedy from their previous house because they just moved into this house. We connect to all that with really limited time with those folks because we're with the ghost the whole time. And it was a feat. It's probably a better directed film of the two between Black Bag and this one from Soderbergh in the chair. But from an enjoyment level, I did like Black Bag a little bit more. But I'm going to put Presence up here right in front of, I just did One of Them Days. So it's going to go right in front of One of Them Days. It is also a 7 out of 10 for me, but it would be the highest rated 7 on this tier list, which basically just means I would rewatch that one first before the others. Getting down to the end here, and we have some doozies. So I did a full review of Snow White, the new live action Disney what the fuck thing that is still in theaters that came out a few weeks ago. I didn't like it. But then again, I'm not the target audience. I mentioned that on the review, and I don't like the Disney remakes. I just don't. And a couple people are like fanboying over them, and they're like, why you go see it? Well, I went to see it because my kids wanted to see it, my little one, my 6-year-old, and my wife loves Disney and loves musicals. So we went to see it as a family. If it was just me, I wouldn't have gone to see it because I know these Disney live action remakes are going to let me down. I love the classic Snow White. Hell, I love all the classics. Little Mermaid that they redid, Aladdin, The Lion King. I didn't even see the new one, and that's a Barry Jenkins film, and I didn't check that one out. I'm just frightened of being let down so much by these. But this is another one. It's just a soulless, empty reimagining of a classic that you didn't need to do a live-action version of. I mean, even if you had done an updated remake from an animation style, like a Pixar-style animation, even that would have made a little bit more sense if it had stayed true to the story. And what was cool about this one, I thought, was that Rachel Zegler, Gal Gadot, the filmmakers, I thought they were doing something different with it, because they start to do that. And then we end right back up where the original movie left off, with True Love's Kiss and the whole, Prince Charming thing, even though they act like there's not a Prince Charming in this movie, because there's not technically a prince, but Jonathan is basically Prince Charming. He saves her, she wakes up, and happily ever after. I skip a bunch of shit that I don't want to talk about again, but you can check out my review if you want. This is another one. I didn't want to die when I was watching it, like Electric State. I did give it a 2 on Letterboxd, which would be a 4 out of 10, but it's going to go all the way at the end of my no bueno list. It's a 4 out of 10. It's not great. So if you love Disney and it's just your shit, then maybe give it a go. But otherwise, unless your kid wants to watch it on Disney Plus in a few months, there's no reason to look at this thing. Although it does have Rachel Zegler in it, so yeah, maybe watch it for her. She's awesome. She's a queen. Wolfman, Leigh Whannell, one of the very first movies I saw in 2025. In fact, it may have been the first new release I saw back in like the first or second week of January, and I did a review on the channel for it. So a lot of these I have reviewed. I liked it. I know that the main gripe with the film from horror fans is the creature design in the movie. And by the way, this is another Christopher Abbott role that I thought he was just blow me away. And he is so good. Do you guys agree? Like, he is such a good actor. And then you also have Julia Garner, of course, from Ozark and a lot of other things. She's also a great actress. So you have powerful performances in a movie that is centered around a classic universal monster that pretty much everybody knows, and the lore of the werewolf. So the creature design that I won't give away for you guys by specifically explaining what it looks like, but it does not look like what the traditional Wolfman looks like ever in the history of cinema. Jack Nicholson's in Wolf is probably the closest to what we get in Wolfman, but still, it's really its own thing. I don't think I've really seen anything that kind of resembles what we see in this film from the creature design standpoint. But there's a lot of inventive things done by Leigh Whannell here, and he's been known to do that, whether it's The Invisible Man or Upgrade. I mean, he's a great filmmaker. I really like him, and he had such a knack for using negative space effectively in The Invisible Man, and he kind of does it here as well. Like, he really will let you linger on what's going to happen, what might be coming soon in the movie. And your tension rises because of the way he kind of films it, the way the score is kind of laid in with what you're watching. He's a really visionary storyteller, and it usually speaks to me. I didn't like this one as much as the other two I just mentioned, Upgrade and Invisible Man, but I thought it was a great kind of retelling. I also did not love the creature design, so that brought the score down for me, but it did ruin the movie for me. I never understand, especially if you're a horror fan, because it was a good story, and it had some really tense moments. It had some really emotional moments from the family's kind of point of view, the daughter-father relationship, all that shit. So I think folks saw the creature, and it didn't look like what they thought it should look like, and they just kind of checked out on the movie otherwise. But there were so many other components in the film that I did love. So for that reason, it's going to go in my It's Fine tier. And like I told you guys, most of the ones would go here. It's going to be towards the end, though, right after The Monkey. I believe I gave Wolfman a 7 out of 10 also, like a 3.5. But it's the lowest 7 possible on this list. But yeah, it's fine. I mean, if you like horror, if you like classic horror, I mean, you got to give it a shot. You got to watch it. And last but not least, and we did this in alphabetical order, so it's kind of weird, but it's the last movie I saw in the movie theater, and it's also the last movie that I gave a review to on this channel. It literally just came out today as I'm recording this video, and it's The Woman in the Yard. Now, check out my full review, but this is a movie that I like for the sole reason, really, not sole reason, but main reason of it sticking with me. I love when a movie, regardless of the score I give it or how much I liked it overall, if it stays with me. And sometimes that makes me rethink my perception of the film. It makes me want to go rewatch the film. It makes me want to talk to you guys or to friends of mine that have seen it about the film. And that's what The Woman in the Yard has been doing for me the last few days since I saw it. I did a whole video on me kind of talking through my thoughts on the ending of the film. The last like 15 to 20 minutes of the movie is fucking wild. Like, it is a really bold, and some might say insensitive, approach to how he wrapped up this story of Ramona, who is played brilliantly by Danielle Deadwyler. The Woman in the Yard is going to be categorized as a horror or thriller, and it does have thrilling, suspenseful moments, without a doubt. But for me, it's more of a thought-provoking psychological study, really. And it's the study of grief and depression and some other things that I don't want to spoil in this video, but you can watch my full review if you want to. And Danielle Deadwyler is an amazing actress who relayed everything that she was supposed to from an emotional standpoint of what her character would be going through when it comes to mental health and her mental illness. And I loved her performance. I loved the swing that the filmmaker took here, but I also have reservations about it because of how he did not even remotely try to tread lightly on the story that he's telling. So I both love it, and I both am kind of concerned about the way it's going to be perceived by certain communities. And you'll know what I mean if you've seen it or if you watch my other review, which will be tagged on this video. But The Woman in the Yard I really liked. It's also going to be in the It's Fine range. Where am I going to put this one, actually? I'll probably put it, honestly, I would probably put it right behind Mickey 17. I also gave this one a 7 out of 10. It would be slightly better than movies like The Monkey and Wolfman in terms of a rewatch, because I really actually am looking forward to rewatching it because I want to see what I may have missed to help me kind of decipher that ending. It's a very blunt ending. Watch my review because I don't want to. This is a weird movie because you can't really recommend it to people as a whole, because there's certain individuals and communities that may have certain pasts that it would not be a good idea to see this movie. So as you can see, no notes. There was no 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10 movies for me so far this year. It's rare. I mean, the first quarter of the year for movies is not usually like, you know, your Oppenheimers and your, you know, I mean, occasionally, like Past Lives, I think came out in March, the year that it came out. Everything Everywhere, I think, came out in March. I mean, occasionally. So if you look on the screen there, there's my ranking of the 15 movies that we went over today, along with the score next to them that I gave them out of 10. That's everything that we covered on my very first tier list. How did I do? Do you guys like the tier list? Should I keep doing this? I'm not going to do it for my regular rankings, like my Oscar rankings. I'll still do traditional ones because I like to talk a lot more about those and about my reasoning around ranking them in certain spots. But for my monthly wrap-ups, I'll probably do the tier list as long as you guys are into it. So let me know what you thought. Also, I want to know down in the comments, let me know, what is the best movie of 2025 that you have seen so far? And is there any movie that you would rank no notes, which is, for me, no notes, 10. It's a 10 for me. Let me know down below in the comments. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you out here next time in the garage.